Welcome back. Now, the National Assembly has passed the Electoral Amendment Bill. It makes it possible for independent candidates to contest the next provincial and national government elections. But there's been sharp criticism. Civil society says it makes it virtually impossible for independents to get seats. They also say it won't pass constitutional muster and could derail the 2024 elections. But Home Affairs Minister Dr. Motsoaledi says what was presented is in line with the Constitutional Court order. The minister joins us now virtually just to tell us more about the bill. Minister, just tell us firstly, why did you feel that the minority view was the best option?
Well, good afternoon to the viewers. When we appointed the Ministerial Advisory Committee, there was nothing about minority or majority view. I did not appoint the committee on that in that regard to deal with minorities or majorities, because it was not a court of law. I specifically appointed the committee to advise us on the technicalities of implementing the Constitutional Court judgment. We were interested in their technical advice, and we chose, and instead of giving us one advice, they gave us two to choose from, and they never wrote in the report that the other one is not to be chosen. They said, here are two options and choose from them. And we chose the option which we thought, under the conditions and circumstances, is more practical.
According
taking
to
into consideration, taking into the consideration that the 24 elections cannot be postponed. They have to take place at that time. And when you look at the time span, we took what we thought is more practicable.
According to the report that we've seen by the Ministerial Advisory Committee Chair, Vali Moose, it was split 4-3. That's what he said, and that's why there's this whole notion that there were two views, and one was 4 out of 7, and one was 3 out of 7.
Well, then they should have submitted the majority view only, because we asked them to advise us on what to do. They will have said, here is an advice by a majority of people. That's how I understand reports are usually written. It's not like the Constitutional Court, where they write both stories of minority and majority. No, because in some cases, majority views in the Constitutional Court sometimes are considered in some judgments in one or the other. But as I'm saying, if you look at the terms of reference, we never envisaged that there will be a minority and majority. If it was envisaged, I would not have chosen a committee of 8 people, definitely. Because if you look at the Constitutional Court or the full bench in the High Court, it's always an odd number, it's not even, because they know that there will be a majority or minority. In this case, it was not envisaged that there's going to be like that. That's why we chose 8 people, and they keep on saying the 4 and 3. Remember, the 8th person in this whole thing was working for the Independent Electoral Commission, and she declined to take a view, because she said she was there to advise, because she's working for the Independent Electoral Commission, and whatever view is taken, the commission will have to implement. And so she just declined to participate when it came to that, because when we appointed her, the commission never foresaw that something like majority or minorities is going to be arrived at.
So is Vali Musa, as the chair of the MAC, is he wrong to oppose the current bill?
Well, it is, I believe it is right, but me, in terms of ethics, if I was involved in this type of work, I wouldn't come back to try and stage a fight. I wouldn't do that, but people are different, you know. People are not the same. Yes, so I wouldn't have done that. I would have found it a little bit offish for me, because I was involved in it. Because there are members of this team who also wanted to enter the fray, and I advised them that no, it will look very ugly. You were given a job to advise. You have finished your report. You have handed it over. Please stay away. Let the public engage with it without your interference. That's what I told members who were suing it, because they too believe they are being misrepresented.
So why, Minister, insist on a system that doesn't exist anywhere in the world?
What do you mean the system doesn't exist anywhere in the world? There's no part of the world where... Well, Masero, there's no part, I'm sorry, Masero. There's no where in the world where one election looks like the other. Where does the Electoral College in the US, where else in the world does it exist?
True, but this hasn't been tested, and this bill basically communicates, Minister, to some in the electorate that political parties made sure that they increase their share of the vote by contriving provinces as super constituencies, for the purpose of the national votes.
Well, that is debatable. All those things that are being said there are debatable. Political parties debated this thing for a long time. They argued and all that. Lawyers were brought in. As to whether what we have done is wrong will be proven with time. But I don't accept the story that we are putting something that doesn't exist anywhere in the world. Because before we gave over the ministerial task team this job, we studied 15 countries around the world, how they carried their elections. Each one of them has got its own, issues and its own problems and its own amendments. In other words, there's no particular country where the election has to be identical to the next country, because they've got different social systems and they've got different problems within their country. So the story that it doesn't exist anywhere in the world, we just believe is propaganda to drive the public to believe that we are doing something that is out of this world. And I've asked you a question. Where does the system of electoral college exist in the world, except in the United States? Should somebody in the United States have stopped them on that basis that it doesn't exist anywhere in the world?
Well, Minister, aren't you concerned about these concerns anyway, especially when people like civil society say that, the public participation wasn't done properly, that it wasn't communicated properly, and therefore Parliament basically just shut out the public in terms of engagement for this? Wouldn't it also mean, Minister, that independent candidates are standing against political parties, meaning a person voting for an independent can only influence one seat, while a person voting for a party has a chance to influence multiple seats? How does that ensure that the votes are of equal value?
Masero, an independent is one person.
Yes.
It's not many people. Political party, yes, is one person. And when the NPC went to, is it NPC, the New Nation Movement, sorry, NPM, when they went to court, they specifically said they want to be allowed to participate in election, not in association with anybody, but as individuals. And the court allowed them that in terms of Section 19(3)(b) of the Constitution, which talks about the right to association. They say they've got the right not to associate. And if you are independent, you can only get one seat. You can't get more than that because you are not associating with anybody. That's what happens to independents in local government. They stand alone in a ward, and after winning it, the other votes cannot go to help them anywhere as they do in political parties, because they chose to stand alone, knowing very well that if you are an independent, you can only get one seat. You can't get more than that.
What's your response then, Minister, to what I was saying earlier, with so many of civil society organizations saying that the system was flawed, participation was not done adequately, communication about the hearings was also flawed, and that Parliament basically just shut them out?
I believe that will be best answered by Parliament. But from what I heard them saying, remember, Masero, here we're working under pressure. We're given 24 months only, not more than that. And they had to work backwards and say, if we have to do this in 24 months and respect what the Constitutional Court has instructed, this is the way we'll do our public hearings. And I understand they've done them. Now, if people say they were not adequate, then it means they are agreeing with us that we could not have done this within a short space of time. that when you want broad electoral reforms, you need ample time. And this particular judgment was not giving ample time. It only gave 24 months. If they say so, that we must start from the beginning and start rediscussing and discuss electoral reform, then that will be the case. Because here, Masego, they are actually conflating two issues. There are two questions here to be answered. The first one is whether our electoral system allow independents to be in parliament in either the province or national assembly. That's the first question, and it's the question that was being answered yesterday, and it was answered. The second question is whether in our electoral system we must have constituencies. That is the second question, and I believe answering that question takes a long time. It needs a lot of consultation. It needs time, and that time was not there. And that's why the first question was answered that way. The second one was not answered. If they wanted to be answered, so let it be. And that's why in my speech I said the people of South Africa will decide whether they need such a debate or not, and nobody can stop it.
All right, Dr. Aaron Motsoaledi, the Minister of Home Affairs, speaking to us there about the Electoral Amendment Bill, which was passed in Parliament yesterday.